Welcome into episode 528 of the Skate Podcast. I am Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. The Boston Bruins get their first come-from-behind third-period win of the season against the Montreal Canadiens. They are now fifth place in the Atlantic Division in both points and points percentage, and they are wild card 2 in both points and points percentage. Bridget and Scott, we're all we got. We're all we need, right?
No.
Right?
Sure, sure, right.
Yeah, Patriots to the Super Bowl. I told you guys Friday on the podcast. You thought I was gonna jinx it. I was like, no, guys, come on, it's happening. Not the prettiest Patriots win, but 10-7 out in a cold, snowy Denver. Yeah, I mean it's just an exciting time for Boston sports. Having, it was a long 7-year drought between Super Bowl appearances. It's been almost 2 calendar years since we've had a team in the finals, since the Celtics won the championship. So
yeah, we're losing other fan bases currently. We're losing the Jets fans.
I don't care. Good. See it.
My mom, I tried to explain it to her. She was like, "Oh, it's been so long since we've been in the Super Bowl." I'm like, "No, it hasn't. By comparison, it has absolutely not been a long time." I'm trying to explain that I think the Jets last won the Super Bowl in like the 60s. I was like, "Before you were born, Mom." So yeah, it's been a while for other people. They don't feel bad for our 7 years.
The Cleveland Browns and Detroit Lions have never been to the Super Bowl, so
yeah.
But and honestly, it's great for the Patriots. Obviously, there were some tough times. All joking aside, post Brady, but it was relatively short lived. And I don't know. You see the Patriots pretty much rebuild, new quarterback, new head coach, like all new players, and they're back in the postseason. You can talk about the Super Bowl. You can talk about their strength of schedule, their path to the Super Bowl, whatever you want to talk about. They got back to the dance, and it makes me just really question if you're Ravens fans, if you're Bills fans, like, how do you not get to the dance once? Like with Josh Allen, with Lamar Jackson, this is gonna come across harsh, and I don't mean it to sound this way, but if the Patriots can get back to the Super Bowl 7 years after, it's not that hard to do. I mean, we talk about the NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup. It is an absolute grind to make it to the Stanley Cup finals and to win a Stanley Cup. In the NFL, it has its own challenges because it's a different playoff structure. It's a different sport. It's a different dynamic. I get all that. But at the end of the day, you make the playoffs, you're going to win 2-3 games most to get to the dance. If you're Buffalo and Baltimore, how do you not get to the Super Bowl once? And I know Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs dynasty aligned with the Bills and the Ravens' best years, but the Chiefs didn't make the playoffs this year. And I know Lamar Jackson had injuries, but what's Buffalo's excuse? Like, I don't know. It blows my mind that one of those two teams has not made it to the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, they made Sean McDermott their excuse, their head coach. They just fired him. So
maybe, yeah.
I think their GM was the bigger problem, but I'll leave that to Buffalo people to debate. I was thinking like what's the hockey equivalent of, like, I was thinking maybe like the Sharks. All those years they were consistently one of the best teams in the NHL with Thornton, Marleau, Pavelski, that whole group. And like they did eventually get to one cup final and obviously lost to Pittsburgh. But I was thinking like that, like, those teams where it's like, oh yeah, like they'll get one eventually, and you just kind of think it's going to happen, and it just never does.
I think Washington was that example prior to obviously 2018. I think that's the team you could look at throughout most of the, late 2000s, 2010s. Again, prior to them finally winning, the year that they won the Stanley Cup in 18, that was their first year in the Ovechkin era, even surpassing the second round. Right. So I guess that's kind of similar, maybe. Right. But then they won. And obviously the Bills still have Josh Allen. The Bills window is not closed. I'm just saying it's surprising to me. And again, I know that's like you're aligning with the Chiefs in the Patrick Mahomes dynasty. I get all that. Like there's reasons for it in a vacuum each year, but
Bridget, you're having audio issues.
Oh, I hate this setup that I have.
What were you saying?
I was laughing because I said now the Patriots are there too, so it's just add another.
But the Jets and the Dolphins are, and that is, we can probably bank on that for never getting back to where they want to be. But wow. Anyway, that's our football corner, I guess. But
Well, yeah, I was gonna say actually, if we want to go into my opening shift, mine ties to the. I'm gonna use the Patriots as a jumping off point because I was thinking about this, and you guys tell me if I'm crazy for even having this thought, but
You're crazy.
Yeah, you're crazy, Scott. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean for many reasons, but this one specifically, let's see. So all year long, it was like Patriots are a good story. This is a lot of fun. They've clearly turned things around from last season, but like no one, even midway through the year, even into December, people didn't really think they were like a legitimate Super Bowl team. It was like, yeah, maybe they'll win a playoff game, like maybe they'll get to the AFC Championship, and everyone just kind of continued to dismiss them. There was all the easy schedule talk. You know, they haven't really been tested. They lost the second game to Buffalo. So people, put Buffalo back ahead of them. Denver getting the 1 seed was always going to be tough to go there. And I was just thinking, like, a lot of that is valid, right? Like, they did have an easy schedule. They did catch some breaks. The playoff stuff, like, yeah, you got to face a Denver team that lost its starting quarterback to a broken ankle the week before. Like those are all fortunate breaks. It does all make this a little crazy, but crazy shit happens in sports. Like this isn't that uncommon across all sports. Like there are always breaks to go on a run. There are always things that are unpredictable. There are always teams that you expect to be there that aren't, right? Like the Ravens were the preseason Super Bowl favorite. They didn't even make the playoffs. Even as late in the regular season, people thought, oh, well, it'll be the Bills year because, the Chiefs and Ravens are out of it. And then they lose in Denver. And this all ties, it got me thinking about the Bruins, who are in a playoff spot. And I think the narrative has been for most of this season that, yeah, this has been pretty fun. They're clearly better than they were last year under Jim Montgomery and Joe Sacco. But, ultimately reality is going to set in at some point. And, maybe they squeeze into the playoffs and lose in the first round. Maybe they end up just outside the playoffs. But, like, we all know this isn't a team that can go on a deep playoff run. I've even said that a few times. And deep down, I still believe that. But it does just plant this like little kernel in my mind of like crazy shit happens. Like crazy shit happens. Like what, like how do we know that there's just some team standing in the Bruins' way in the Eastern Conference where it's like, oh, well, they wouldn't, even if they win around, they would never get past that team. Like, I don't know. Like it's just entering my mind. It's just, we're 52 games in. We're well past halfway through the season and they're in a playoff spot and they just got 2 big wins over Vegas and Montreal. 2 pretty good teams, 2 different style teams. I'm not saying the Bruins are going on a Stanley Cup run. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying the wheels are turning a little bit. I'm like part of me is like, I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't be like completely ruling out some exciting stuff.
Okay, so yeah, you're a little bit crazy, Scott, because I feel like this might be the opposite of stuff you've said earlier this year. But also you said Colonel, and I don't know if you're trying to sneak in a popcorn joke in the middle of that, or if you just always have popcorn on the brain subconsciously. But
it's the latter.
It's the subconscious version. Okay. Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, yeah, and hockey is so unpredictable in the playoffs.
I was gonna say, like, isn't this the sport that we say more than any other sport? You just get in, you have a chance.
Well, can I add some?
Win. Like that's.
Can I add some bullet points to the point Scott's making? If you're gonna draw some parallels to the Patriots, right?
Yeah, but you have to sneak a popcorn reference in.
Okay. All right. It'll come to me. Let me think on that one. I'm not trying to butter Scott up here, but let me just, let me just try to think of one here. So, you bring up the Patriots and some parallels. So, well, the Patriots' path this year featured an AFC where the Ravens don't make the playoffs, to your point. We can call them the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, the Maple Leafs may make the playoffs, but it's not looking good. The Kansas City Chiefs did not make the playoffs. We can call them the Florida Panthers. Now, maybe they make the playoffs, but right now it's not looking great. The Buffalo Bills,
although they've suddenly won 3 in a row and are knocking on the door.
Yep, and I'm not going to discount the Florida Panthers for making the playoffs. I think they have every reason in the book to miss this year in terms of they've played a ton of hockey the last 3 years. They have major injuries, one in Barkov that will be seems like the remainder of the season still. So, there's reasons why this might just not be their year. Reset next offseason, get back at it if you're Florida. But to your point, Scott, like right now, the playoff picture in the East, these would be the matchups. It would be Carolina versus Boston. Obviously, they would be an underdog. That's probably the one series where it's like clear underdog Boston. But then you got Montreal, Detroit, Tampa, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Islanders. That's a lot. Those are a lot of teams that are, you're talking about Detroit, Buffalo. Those two teams haven't made the playoffs in like a combined 20 years. The Islanders, the Penguins, certainly they haven't had strong years the last couple, but they're back in the mix. The Canadiens, like Tampa Bay and Carolina, yes, they are proven. Outside of that, including Boston, it's not a very proven field in the East. So, yeah, definitely always want to keep watching. You never know what's going to happen. But, yeah.
Pittsburgh is the Pittsburgh of the NHL. They have the old legend, and you're just like, are they really for real?
Do not compare.
Turned out Steelers no, Penguins will see.
No. Do not compare Sidney Crosby to Aaron Rodgers. I swear to God.
He is admittedly not as crazy. Not quite as crazy.
But hey,
and he's still got life left in him.
But and also like honestly, like just a way better winner.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Rodgers went to, was it one Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Okay.
One Super Bowl.
I mean, he's in GOAT conversations with some people. It's like not anymore, but that was a big thing. But you bring up Pittsburgh, even look at the Penguins, right? Like all off season, entering the year, it was like, which team is going to be sweeping away Crosby at the deadline? Who's going to be his closest chance to win a cup? Colorado, Montreal. It's like, no, he's staying in Pittsburgh because he wants to do things with the Penguins. So you just never know. And that's why ultimately, to your point, Scott, and this is the longest opening shift. If we're a coach, we're blowing the whistles right now. But that's why we sit here, we analyze, we give our opinions, us fans, everybody, to the best of our abilities, because again, we're looking at what's happening, and if nothing's happened yet, i.e. it's an off season, you're trying to give your best opinions and predictions. But at the end of the day, you really just never know, right? So that's why they play the game.
All right. Is it time for my opening shift yet?
Yeah, okay. Let's get into the rest of it.
Yeah, okay. So mine is not football related. So sorry if people were enjoying that, and you're welcome if you were ready for that to stop. But mine is.
How about those Celtics though?
Get out of here. No Red Sox either. So I don't know if you guys know this, but before the football game, there was a hockey game on Saturday between the Boston Bruins and the Montreal Canadiens. Getting the rivalry going again. Scott, you were saying everybody should be in their seat before puck drop. And there wasn't a fight right away. There was a fight, but it wasn't in the very beginning of the game this time. But yeah, my opening shift just has to do with some keys from the game, in particular Morgan Geekie. And the Bruins being able to come back from behind multiple times to take this win. So Geekie scores the Bruins' second goal of the game to tie it 2-2. Caulfield had a hat trick. And then Minton ties it 3-3. And then Geekie gets the go-ahead goal on the power play. And the Bruins end up winning 4-3 on a shot that went so fast into the net that nobody even knew it was in there. So Geekie back on track. It looked like he was coming really close the last few games. And we were talking about how he looks like he's still got that same scoring coming, but he had another 2-goal game against Montreal, and it was really important. So he had a good game. I thought McAvoy looked great again. He had, I think, 3 points in the game, and Minton had a goal and an assist too. So there was, And Pastrnak had maybe the best assist of the year. Just cool, but I think he might have stolen that from Abby Murphy. If you guys saw her assist, like her crazy assist that was going viral a few weeks ago, where she saucered it to herself, put it between someone's legs, and then passed it. But yeah, he did a little like air saucer to himself and then slid it over to Geeky for a goal. But yeah, there were a lot of fun moments in that game for a Bruins fan, even though, like I mentioned, they kept getting down. They came back and they won 4-3.
Yeah, absolutely. And now Geeky has 3 goals in his last 3 games. And yeah, it was just a matter of he needed to see one go in. Now, I said his game in Dallas, while it's amazing that he was able to find the back of the net, it was off of a tip in. As a player, I wonder if you'd feel even better if you finish the shot yourself to get off out of a drought, but you take what you can get. And he had been getting some chances. And now it's surprise, surprise, he's finding the back of the net again. And they needed him to, because as well as the Bruins had been playing as a team over the last month, and I'm going to get into that in a second, they were kind of doing so while him being in a goal scoring drought. So you need him long term. I want to make one other comment on Geeky, because last episode, I believe it was, if you remember, I was saying how I feel like he just, during this slump at least, he hadn't been very engaged physically. He didn't seem like a player to me that was doing all that he could to get out of a goal scoring slump. And I was surprised to know, I was looking this up for another reason, but in doing so, I saw him. Do you know he is ranked 104th out of all players that have played in the NHL this year in hits? He's just outside the top 100. That was surprising to me. So I'm going to maybe rescind what I said last episode. Maybe throughout the course of the drought, maybe he wasn't hitting as much as I thought he was, or maybe he was. Like, I take that back. Numbers don't lie.
I was going to say, I think it is fair to say that wasn't as present, because like, I don't have the numbers up, but like, I feel like I noticed that too. And, and for me, it was, and I think I said it on here, it's because like, he has that in his game. And that's one of the things like I wanted to see him get back to and do more, right? Like he can be physical. He can be a forechecking presence. I think that was a huge part of his success last season. And, sometimes when you start scoring at an elite rate, it doesn't have to be intentional. Sometimes you just kind of forget maybe some of the blue collar stuff that helped you become that player. But I do think Geeky's had it back recently. And, he also, during this last 3 games, he had 2 assists in the Vegas game, which was the one game he didn't score in. So 5 points in the last 3. He had a couple great chances early in the Montreal game too, on the Bruins' first power play. One of them, I think it was Pastrnak, set him up all alone in front, and he just kind of fumbled it away, didn't get off a clean shot. But yeah, obviously stuck with it, still ends up with 2 goals. And last note on Geeky, it was his baby boy Max's first game. His wife brought Max, who was just 2 weeks old. So little extra special for Geeky.
How cool is that? Yeah, and just to finish a thought on the hits while I'm on it, while Geeky's just outside the top 100, I think Boston has 5 players inside the top 100. Tanner Jeannot is 13th in the league in hits, Kastelik 17th, Zadorov 27th, Alex Steeves 37th in the league, and Fraser Minton is 71st in the NHL with 95 hits this year. So anyway, okay.
Well,
any thoughts there, Bridget?
Steeves hasn't even been in for the full season.
That's a great point. Yeah.
He's missed like the first month plus when he wasn't even in Boston yet.
Good point. That, you know what? I wonder what game hits per games played is at. He's probably really up there. Okay, my opening shift is the Bruins deserve a lot of credit. They really do. We harped a lot. I harped a lot during their most recent 6-game losing streak that, hey, listen, if you can't, finish the road trip strong, it could be curtains on the season. And I still believe how I felt back then. I didn't foresee the Bruins. It wasn't just the results. The process looked off. They were not playing good hockey at all during that 6-game losing streak. It wasn't like, oh, they were the better team, but they're just not getting the luck, not getting the bounces right. No, they were outplayed through the majority of those 6 games. I thought that they had lost. So I think if, the eye test along with the analytics test, none of that told me that they were about to rattle off 10 of their next 12 games. So I'm glad that they have, and they deserve credit for it. Dating back to New Year's Eve against Edmonton, I believe they've won 10 of their last 12. But this month in particular, they have won 9 of their 11 games this month. So they deserve a ton of credit for that. And they also deserve credit for their most recent 3-game sample between games against Dallas, Vegas, and Montreal, a stretch we all said was going to be very difficult for them. And then you lose, you get smoked by Dallas in a game that I would say out of the 60 minutes, you really weren't competitive for, I don't know, 40 to 45 minutes of it, I would say. And it's very easy for that to snowball into a loss against Vegas. And then that turned into a loss against Montreal. Like, no, they came out against Vegas in the first period in particular, hair on fire, took control of that game. And then the Montreal game wasn't as smooth. In fact, it was a game where Boston didn't have a good first period. Their second period was okay, and their third period was excellent. So they got better as that game went along, whereas Vegas, they kind of went the other way around. But however you want to slice or dice it up, they've won 2 out of 3 against 3 very good opponents, and their larger sample size over the last nearly calendar month, they just deserve a ton of credit. And it's why Scott's able to come in here this morning and talk about, hey, you know what? You just never know, because the Bruins have right now started to gain some, I don't know if separation's too strong, but between how they've played the last 10, 12, 13 games, along with some winnable games coming up here, if you take care of business and keep playing strong, they can enter the Olympic break in a really good opportunity to make the playoffs.
Yeah, you're right. Like this week, they got a couple winnable games. If you're a Bruins fan, you hope they come through that strong. And then that trip to Florida, that's looking huge. Like as I've said before, like I'm going on that trip and I'm excited for it. Like those are going to be big games. First off, just the spectacle of the outdoor game in Tampa, like whatever that looks like, but also on the ice, a great test against the team that I think, all things considered, has been the best in the Eastern Conference in the Lightning. And that's both like, look at the standings, look at the analytics, look at what, individually some guys on that team are doing. And then the Panthers to close it out before the Olympic break down in Sunrise. Like, with them surging a bit now and getting right back to the doorstep of the playoff picture, that's going to be a huge one. Couple of things. So I looked up hits per 60 minutes just because I was curious as well. And I set it to players who've played 300 minutes this season. So it's like 600 players league wide. Alex Steves is 14th in hits per 60 minutes. And then Brian, you touched on something that was maybe the most encouraging part of this win over Montreal to me. And that was the third period and the way they closed it out, especially the turnaround in third periods from Thursday to Saturday, where, like you said, Thursday felt like really just kind of hanging on for dear life as Vegas, put together quite the third period to charge back and nearly tie it after being down 4-0. Saturday, though, it was the Bruins who get the momentum. Obviously, they're the ones coming back. It was a 3-2 game for Montreal going into the third. Bruins, Fraser Minton ties it. Tangino immediately draws a penalty. Geeky immediately scores on the power play. And then you have 5:53 to close out the game. And I thought the Bruins play during that, much of it, which was obviously an extra attacker situation for Montreal pulling the goalie. I thought the Bruins played really good hockey to close that out and won some key battles. I thought Casey Middlestad had a couple awesome plays to get pucks out of the zone. One, he was like there was the one late in the final minute where he just grinds through a battle on the boards and just like forces the puck out through like sheer will. He also, like, probably a minute or two before that, had a play where he was just dogging Nick Suzuki, was like all over him and just kept poking and forced Suzuki to retreat out of the zone, like poke the puck off his stick, force him to retreat. So that was great. I thought Hampus Lindholm had a couple big plays, cleared away a rebound during a scramble, just got it out to center ice, had a block on a chance in the slot. That was a pretty good scoring chance. So, a couple individuals worth highlighting there. Obviously, some really good saves from Swayman down the stretch. I think it was a blocker save on Noah Dobson one timer that stands out, but just looked like a much more composed team than sort of the scrambly one that we saw Thursday.
And there was another important thing that happened in the third period, which was that Nikita Zadorov came back. And when you watch that replay of him, like he's a big guy. He weighs like 250 pounds. He lands on his own leg in a way that, like, it looked like his ankle snapped and his knee and everything just was pointing in the wrong direction. And I could not, and he couldn't walk off on his own power. Like, he got helped down the tunnel and he was only putting weight on one leg. And you're just thinking, well, that did not look good. And I think, Brian, you tweeted, like, I don't think he's coming back, because, like, when I watched it at first too, I was like, that's really bad. And he came back and he played the third period. And I feel like he looked pretty much like himself, maybe a tad bit slower, but, like, for the most part was able to do what he normally does. And that's huge because he's been a big part of the defense, and we've talked about how many defensive injuries that they've had. He hasn't been one of them. He's been healthy. He's played every game so far. Did he play every game last year too? Because I feel like he may not have missed a game yet since being a Bruin, but I can't recall exactly if he missed any last year.
He may have.
He missed one last year.
Okay. So
I don't remember exactly what the circumstance would have been. But
yeah, me neither. So he's pretty much played every game since he signed with Boston, and he would have been a big loss. He's plus 16 on the season. He's looked good with pretty much every partner they've put him with. And so that would have been a big loss if he were to miss time. And obviously maybe he's got more scans and tests after, and hopefully those all came out to be okay as well. And that he's just going to keep chugging along and playing and is healthy. So he's got the second highest plus minus on the team. Do you guys know who has the most without looking, or have you guys looked recently?
I'm going to guess it's Aspero.
Yeah, he's plus 19. Yeah. So,
yeah, Zadorov didn't practice Sunday. And Sturm said after the game, like, you could tell he was fighting it. Like, you could tell he was banged up. So obviously they're gonna be careful here and make sure everything's okay. It's one thing to come back when you kind of have that adrenaline rush and you just close out the game. He played 5.5 minutes in the third period, so which is probably a little less than he would normally play, in a period. But yeah, obviously you hope nothing came up on further testing.
Scott, I'm sorry to jump in here, but on the broadcast they mentioned that his ice time in the first period was limited too. Do you think there was something going on with him before he got hurt in the second period? Because his ice time was a little bit lesser than, and his game looked like he was being a little bit more cautious than he normally is, especially in a big game against Montreal. So I wonder if he was dealing with something too, which is also why I was like, maybe he won't come back in the third, because maybe it's just, okay, he tried to play through something, then he got hurt again. Like, let's just put him out for the rest of the night and mitigate any further damage.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the broadcast did say that, and I had thought too, because I didn't get to watch this in real time. I had to watch it after, because I was broadcasting at the same time. I was at BU. And yeah, the broadcast definitely said, oh, he hasn't been out here as much. And I'm thinking I must have missed a shift that he got injured, and I just like didn't see it because I had seen Brian's tweet already before, like, because I'm trying to catch up. And so I knew he got hurt. So I was like, oh, maybe I missed it. Maybe he already got hurt in the first period. And then I got to the, I think it was the second period, and he lands on his leg. And I'm like, oh my God, no, that's what Brian was talking about. So yeah.
He only played 4.5 minutes in the first, which is definitely low. But then he played 6.5 in the second before the injury, which would be a normal workload. So I don't know. I wasn't listening to the broadcast. We don't, unfortunately, 52 games into the season, our TVs still don't work in the press box. I'm not upset about it at all. But yeah, and then I was looking at his recent games. I mean, he was over 20 minutes like every game recently, so I don't think it would have been anything that was lingering, but yeah, maybe something did pop up in that first period.
Yeah, I think, and I forget if it was Brick or Judd. Probably Brick. But I think he may have made reference to like some hit that he took earlier in the first, but they didn't, to my memory. And if somebody listening or watching has this information, feel free to comment on it. But I don't think they showed any sort of retroactive replay about a hit, but they just mentioned the ice time, which you just highlighted, Scott. It was 4-something minutes. So anyway, yeah, it's the fact that he came back was huge. They needed it. And something else about the end of the game that I really, really liked seeing was the Bruins weren't afraid in the dying like 30, 40 seconds to kind of take some liberties with some, cross checks here and there because the refs really don't love making calls. Sometimes they like to let the boys play in the final minute or so with an empty net, and you have to be careful. You don't want to be too egregious about it. But sometimes when you're like making sure you're a good Samaritan so you don't take the penalty, it makes it that much easier for the opponents. And sometimes when you kind of you get it, like, I don't know, don't be afraid to get away with that extra little cross check in the dying 30 seconds. They might call it, but chances are they'll let it go because of the situation that the game is in. And I feel like the Bruins, it's the game within the game, right? And I feel like the Bruins weren't afraid to risk some of those, minor penalties that obviously if you get called for it, okay, good luck going down 6-on-4 with Montreal on the ice for 40 seconds. But you kind of run that risk, and it paid off for them.
And their power play's been pretty good. Like Caulfield,
oh my God.
Their Caulfield scored on at least one of the power plays, right? Yeah. Two of his 3 goals were power play goals, and he almost scored on another power play in the third period. So I wouldn't have wanted to give them another power play.
Against Dallas, I said to you guys, it felt like because Dallas was playing so well and the Bruins were kind of, they were kind of in quicksand for a bit. It felt like there were 10 Dallas Stars on the ice at times. Montreal is one of those power plays where you feel like they're on the power play for 5 minutes, even though it's only 2. It's like you feel every second that, like you're watching the Canadiens in the power play and the Bruins, you feel like they've had it for like 3 minutes, and the Bruins finally ice it or get a whistle, and you look up at the clock and there's still 1:20 on the power play. It's like, whoa. What was that 40 seconds? Why did it feel like 5 minutes? Because they have that much skill and possession and speed. They are just what a power play unit that is. And
yeah, they have one thing that their power play does well that a lot of teams can't, and it comes down to skill, I guess, and chemistry. But like they move the puck like in the low part of the zone really well. Like they don't just cycle up high. Like they can get a good cycle going down like near your goal, and that's what makes them really dangerous. Like they can get those passes across into the slot and backdoor and below the goal line, and that's something that they use a lot.
Yeah, and it's because I saw some commentary about this, like why, like how does Caulfield keep getting open? Like why does he even have, like, yeah, I know they're low angles, but like why does he even have these shots? And it's like, well, because that power play is full of other weapons. Like, you can't, like, you just can't take away everything. Caulfield's third on that team in power play goals. Like Nick Suzuki and Juraj Slafkovsky each have 9 for the team lead. So, okay, if you overload on Caulfield, you're going to have Suzuki in the bumper or Slafkovsky right in front. And then, oh, by the way, you have Demidov on the other side and Lane Hudson up top. Like, Hudson probably not as much of a shooting threat as they need him to be or would want him to be. He still defers a lot, but obviously is an elite passer. So like even if you get the puck back up to him, it's like he's gonna do, he's gonna deke someone out, open up a passing lane, and then set up someone else. So you don't want to give Cole Caulfield those shots, but I think the thinking from a PK perspective is like, well, they are low angle, and maybe that is, less dangerous than some other options, but obviously he's such an elite shooter that he still buried those chances.
I think if you're, because I was texting my brother. My brother was at the game and he played goalie, so I was asking him. I said, "Hey, what was your thoughts on the third goal by Swayman?" Because he was obviously already down, and while he said he may have been down a little early, he mentioned how he's like, but McAvoy was just sitting there kind of doing nothing, right? And I responded, and I was like, well, yeah. I said, but he's trying to take away the slot pass because that's what Montreal does so well. And I think if you're the Bruins, I think to your point, Scott, you're willing, if you're going to give up a goal, you're going to say, okay, we want them to beat Sway on a perfect shot from a bad angle. And Caulfield is so good. That's exactly what he did. But, if Charlie overcommits to Cole there, then I think that, you're just opening up that bumper play that they do so well. Now, could Charlie have maybe at the last second when he maybe you can use the eyes in the back of your head, the side of your head to maybe at the last second go over to Caulfield once you realize that he's not going to the slot. But these guys are so good and they're so quick that things happen so fast. And he's probably good enough where he could at the last second go back to the slot if he sees Charlie commit to him. So it's just a tough play. And when you're 5-on-4, you're going to, especially against a power play like Montreal's, you're going to give up some look. So it's about what's the lesser of two evils. And unfortunately for the Bruins, Caulfield is such a good player and such a good shooter that he just took advantage of the one lesser evil that the Bruins gave him.
And to tie the Montreal Bruins game back to Scott's opening shift, Scott, I think last episode said if the playoff, like he was starting to get excited and tell himself that maybe there could be a Bruins-Canadiens 2-3 matchup to start the playoffs. That would be, it would be a great series, but also winnable. I think like both of those teams probably go into it feeling like they could win that. But probably be really even, and it would be something that hasn't happened in a long time. So if that were to be how it played out, you'd need, first of all, Detroit or Buffalo or Tampa to start losing a little bit more. Like two of those three teams would have to end up flip-flopping with Montreal and Boston for the wild card versus the 2-3, which I think Buffalo could easily be. They're tied with Montreal right now, and the Bruins are 1 point back. So like, it could happen. It really could. And that would be an outcome that would look good for Boston. Also, I don't know what you guys would think of if the 2-3 was Bruins and Sabres. Like, what does that playoff matchup look like? Because that was not on anyone's radar to start the season.
Bruins, Detroit,
Bruins or Buffalo were not on anyone's radar for the playoffs. So, yeah.
Now, sorry, Scott, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like right now, Tampa and Detroit have gained a little separation. So one of them would have to fall off quite a bit. Obviously, there's still time, but you got Detroit at 69 points, Tampa at 68, and then it drops down to Buffalo, Montreal 63, Bruins right behind 62. So Detroit's been rolling. Detroit and Tampa both 8-1-1 last 10. Buffalo 7-2-1, but the Bruins right there 8-2-0 last 10. Brian, as Brian said, 9-2-0 in January,
which is why, like, before this run by the Bruins, when they had just lost 6 in a row and they finally got that win against Edmonton and Vancouver, they beat Vancouver. Yeah, they beat Vancouver. Then they lost to Seattle, I think. But that's why I was saying, like, I'm glad they broke this losing streak, but you gotta win some games here because the teams around you are still winning. So again, if you're the Bruins, if you went 500 the last 13 games, where are you? You're outside the playoff structure. Like, you've had to go on this run. And again, to my opening shift, all marks to them for doing so. But it is wild when you think about the playoff picture right now, because last year the Atlantic, I believe, sent 5 to the postseason, right? You had Tampa, Florida, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal. And right now they're in a position to send 5 again, but 3 of those teams last year, in the Senators, the Leafs, and the Panthers being your 2-time defending champions, are now out, and it's Boston, Buffalo, and Montreal. So again, in Montreal, obviously, I'm sorry, Boston, Buffalo, Detroit. So yeah, it's interesting. And just one note, last episode I mentioned that if the Bruins and the Canadiens don't meet in the playoffs this year, they would create a new head-to-head franchise playoff drought. I did go back and check those dates. The previous drought, which right now even if they play in the postseason this year, they'll tie it, was 1931 to 1943. It was a 12-year postseason drought for the Bruins and the Canadiens. Right now, their last postseason meeting was in the spring of 14. If they were to meet this year, it's the spring of 26. So they have tied that, and they will no longer be in jeopardy of, but if they don't meet in the playoffs this year, well, now you're talking at least 13-year drought, and that's a new franchise head-to-head. So again, it all ties back to one of the reasons that the Bruins-Canadiens rivalry has taken a back seat the last decade or so has been a lack of postseason meetings. You throw in some divisional realignments due to COVID and this and that, Montreal not being great, the Bruins being better at times. It's cooled off. The Bruins have played Toronto, Tampa, Carolina, bunch of times. But it's great to see this year. The rivalry is all about meaningful games and both teams being good, and I'm here for it. We're all here for it.
Maybe.
Yeah. By the way, I was just looking for because I mentioned before at one point it was like best record since Christmas. The top 6 were all in the Atlantic. It's not quite that anymore, but since Christmas, so now a month. 4 of the top 6 records are from the Atlantic Division. It's Tampa first, then you get Pittsburgh second, Utah third, but then back to the Atlantic, Buffalo 4th, Boston 5th, Detroit 6th.
That's crazy.
I mean, right now the Bruins are 11th in the NHL overall standings. They're 5th in the Atlantic Division, right? So I mean, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's insanity. I mean, look at Ottawa. Ottawa's second to last in the East, and they still aren't like that far. Like they're still not completely out of a playoff spot. So, they're probably they are the farthest, but they're still within 7 points? Like they're or 8 points. I can't. I don't have it up right now, but
they're 7 points out.
Yeah, they're 7 points. That's not that bad, and they're second to last in the whole East. So yeah, it's an uphill battle for them, because it feels almost like the Patriots game yesterday. Whoever was winning when the bad weather came through was probably going to win, and that's what happened for the Patriots. It's like wherever you are at the Olympic break, like it's just going to be an uphill battle to try to climb from second to last in the conference to somewhere that you have the ability to make the playoffs. So and by the way, Bruins only have 5 games until the Olympic break. So
how many games do they have upon return from Italy? Is it like 30 or high 20s? It's gonna be a sprint.
They've played 52 games. So add 5, so 57. So
it's only 25 games. Yeah.
It's gonna be a sprint.
And by the way, when they get back, it's only 4 games between when they return from the Olympic break and the trade deadline. So, like, if we want to do, games between now and the trade deadline, the Bruins only played 9 games between now and the trade deadline. Like, and this goes for every team, obviously, but like, that's not a lot of time to change your mind one way or the other about like what you are or what you're going to become. Like, we're kind of, it doesn't feel like it because you have that 3-week break, but like you're kind of at that point where you're making your case to your general manager, showing your general manager like what you are and what the course of action should be. Like it's kind of fascinating that we're basically already there. And there's just not a lot of time for teams to change their mind or like go decisively in one direction or the other in terms of the standings. Like unless these 9 games are an absolute disaster, it's like the Bruins are going to be right in the thick of it, right? So, like, what does Don Sweeney do? Does he still sell off some pieces? Does he look to add because maybe he believes in this team more than we all did to start the year? Is it a little of both, right? Like, that's an option. Is it, maybe you trade away a piece or two that's not part of your longer, middle to long-term future, while also looking for guys with term who might be part of that. Like, it's getting to crunch time like real fast here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be probably a little bit of both. What it shouldn't be, and we're all in alignment here, is it shouldn't be any rental purchases for Boston, right? That's the one thing. So definitely, it's interesting though, Scott. Like, okay, Andrew Peeke is a name that gets brought up because he's a pending UFA. Now, personally, yeah, I think if you can maybe move him ideally to like a Western Conference team at the deadline, if they want to overpay for him, then you think about it. But at the same time, I think Andrew Peeke might be a top 5 player this year in terms of blocked shots, or he's up there. He's blocked a lot of shots, and that's something that it's easy to overlook because you're not noticing it and you're not keeping track of it all the time. But it's those little things that, like, right now, it's like, who's going to go block all those shots for you? Now, we might not love a lot of elements to his game, but it's just little things. It's like, I don't know. I would move Peeke if you can find something for him, because I think, between Yoki Haru, who, by the way, him and his wife had a child, Jordan Harris. I know Harris is a lefty, right? So I know there's some handedness issues, but like, you can move Peeke and survive.
I say too, this is crazy, and I just was doing the math on this. When the Bruins come back from the Olympics break, they have 4 games before the trade deadline.
Yeah,
Bridget, thanks for listening to the podcast.
Wait, I was doing the math and you were probably talking about it, right?
I said that like 3 minutes ago.
As I was looking it up, so I wasn't paying attention.
I can't wait for the comments to be like, Bridget, great point on the
To me, that's crazy. Like, that's how you have to pretty much be deciding, right? Like, now it's important to kind of have an idea what you're doing. Like, now in the final 5 games of this, and then you'll have time to think about it in the time off too, but like, it's essentially 9 games, so the final
I like this point so much better when I made it 2.5 minutes ago.
Sorry, I'm catching up. All right.
Bridget has to hit mute when she's doing math. She can't do both.
5 minutes. 5 minutes from now, she's like, by the way, do you realize that Andrew Peeke is one of the highest block shots? He actually, I just looked it up. He's 26 in the NHL in block shots. So he's not top 5, but top quarter.
I'm gonna go. See you guys later.
No, listen, it's
Bridget's like, did you know the Patriots have made the Super Bowl?
It's crazy.
Bridget, great point. I'll support
you. Bye,
guys. No, yeah, listen, you gotta start to make some decisions. What are you gonna do with Victor Arvidsson? I still think, if someone's gonna offer you something worthwhile, you do it. But if someone's offering you a third for Arvidsson, I don't know, I think you probably just keep him. But I do think it's gonna be some sort of mix. I just don't think what you're gonna do is any short-term rental buys at all, nor should they. I don't care if they're first place in the NHL at that point.
And I also think the other thing you're not going to do, again, unless like these 9 games just end up being a disaster, is you're not selling like last year. Like, it's not going to look anything like to that extent where you're trading away like 3 core pieces, upper to middle of the lineup guys, like, which I think, like I still see people mentioning like Middlestad, Zaka, Arvidsson, that whole line could be on the table. Not if the Bruins are in a playoff spot.
It's not. Like,
you're not trading your entire second line. That again, Arvidsson, like that's a unique case because he's a pending unrestricted free agent. So yes, fine. Like, at least listen on him and see if someone wants to give you something of real value. But I cannot imagine Don Sweeney at this point trading Zaka and Middlestad. Like those guys have term. You can reevaluate in the offseason, what you think their future with your franchise is, but right now, those are guys helping you win games and helping you be in a playoff spot.
I mean, Middlestat could be a really good. Bridget, go ahead.
I was gonna say, if your goal is to make the playoffs and to, have a chance at winning a round, then you're not getting rid of any of those three. Like, because obviously we know that the goal is to win a Stanley Cup, and anything short of that is when people sell. But when you have the season like they did last year and the promise to the fans that they were going to be back in the playoffs sooner than later, are they fine with maybe just riding it out and seeing if they make the playoffs and not jeopardizing the fact that, let's show them we made progress. It's not necessarily a Stanley Cup team, but it's a team that, you could be excited about for at least a little bit in April or in May. I don't know what the calculus is. Are they fully fine with looking at this team going, we're not going to beat Tampa Bay. All right, let's just call it and get rid of those, get rid of a guy like Peak and Arvidsson and such. But I kind of feel like they are, first of all, they're competitors like Neely and Sweeney. So they might see this as you know what, I really think we got this, because they look at it as, they're proud of what they have, and they always think that they have a chance to win. So
they're competitors, but they're also managers of not just today, but tomorrow. And I think that, when it comes to Victor Arvidsson, to me, it just comes down to price, like what you're getting for him. If the Bruins are first place in the NHL come trade deadline and somebody wants to offer you a first round pick for Arvidsson, I still think you'd I do in a heartbeat. I don't care where the Bruins are. If somebody wants to offer you a third for Arvidsson, I'm not going to probably upset the room over a third. If it's a second, I think you have a real tough decision to make. Peak, I think you probably take for a second. I don't think anyone's giving you a first or Peak, but you never know. Zacha, listen, I've said this, and my opinion on this is getting stronger and stronger. I think the player and the team come to a deal. I think Zacha gets his raise, and I think that it's at a similar cap percentage as his deal is now, with the cap going up, and I think the team will be happy about that. Middlestat, I think his play has been, you can make the argument his strong play is good for trade value, move him now. I just think that, the Bruins probably think that he's earned a longer leash here. And I think that that's fair to the play Scott was talking about earlier. Middlestat moving to the wing and being effective at it is not something we knew 3-4 months ago. And so him as a winger, I could see him, as a really, really good third line winger, maybe next year, the year after, as some of your younger players start to come into the fold, like a James Higgins and whatnot. So I think that's how I feel about Zacha and Middlestat right now. And then Arvidsson and Peak, it just depends on what someone is willing to give you. But I don't think they're going to upset the room for third or fourth rounders here.
Yeah. Can I let's fast forward. I'm curious what you guys would think of this. What you think your reaction would be. March 6th, I think, is the trade deadline, right? That's that Friday. Yeah, March 6th. March 6th comes and goes, and the Bruins do absolutely nothing. Do not trade anyone away. Do not add anyone. Just stand pat and ride this out. What are you thinking? How would you feel about that?
I would feel like what I would feel. I would want to know what was out there. That would be my first question. Why did you do nothing? Is it because people were only, to the point I was just making, were they only offering you a third for Arvidsson? Then I get it. But generally speaking, if there wasn't, I don't think I'd be up in arms over it. I don't think you did anything stupid. You weren't a rental buyer. Maybe there wasn't any intermediate or long-term buy options on the table. And then maybe people weren't willing to give you what you were hoping for with some of these players. So,
but I think it's too, we're lacking any information that would,
I would rather that. I would rather that than the Bruins be like a rental buyer. I think there's worse things to happen than to do nothing. Right. I think a lot of Bruins fans feel like this is a year where you kind of just stay the course. And then, if you make the playoffs and you make some noise, that's great, but don't do anything to rock the boat. If there's not an opportunity there to make your team better, long-term, I'm not talking a short-term rental, long-term, and there wasn't anything there, then fine. And if nobody wanted Arvidsson for more than a third, then whatever. Like, am I okay with Andrew Peeke leaving in the offseason for nothing if somebody was only willing to give you a third round pick for him? Like, whatever. Like, sure. Like, it's the business, I don't know.
Well, yeah. And I feel like based off of what was going on with like recently with the Rasmus Anderson stuff, it seems like they're probably still poking around for a right shot defenseman. So if there were to be one that was available, like I feel like what the rumored package was for that, which was Laura in a first, like if it's a decent defenseman, right shot, like it with term, right? Like or willing to sign an extension, I guess. I still like that's a move that would make them better, and I think that's a move that people would accept and think was the right thing to do, even though you have to part with a high pick, right? Like something that you've acquired that you maybe thought they were going to use, but if it helps maximize when you have Pasternak and McAvoy and Swayman in their prime, then it does feel like they need, and it might not be at the deadline, maybe it's in the off season, but they really desperately do need to add on the right side of their defense. And if they don't, then it'll be hard to see them as like a fully constructed playoff team again. So, but yeah, I think it's kind of hard to answer without knowing the names that are out there. And I wonder if we start to hear that kind of stuff crop up in the next few weeks here, because we're getting close.
I got a good chuckle. I don't know if you guys saw this. And listen, online.
Oh no.
Online, you really gotta filter what's especially with rumors. It's like everybody wants to be an insider, but there's one name that it seems to be on the outs with their current team, and I'll tell you one thing: I don't really want anything to do with them. Right shot defenseman is Dougie Hamilton. So I don't know if you guys saw that. It's like listen, again, it's not a credible article, but just to play the game, like they mentioned how like New Jersey would retain salary, but the starting point's a 26 first. I literally was like, wow, I was like, get the fuck out. You're not giving up 26 first round pick for Dougie
No
Hamilton.
chance.
Come on. And honestly, it was one of those articles where I'm just laughing. I'm like, that is just not a credible article. But the name Dougie Hamilton, I do think you're going to see him get traded somewhere. I don't think it should be bought. I don't want him in Boston unless it was literally for pennies on the dollar. But even then, it's like the kid didn't even like being in Boston the first time around. So.
Yeah, and I mean, like, how much is getting retained? Because that contract's pretty rough. Two more years after this, $9 million a year. Like I think Dougie Hamilton has had a really good career, and that's probably been, I don't know, like overlooked around these parts, because I feel like Bruins fans, there was a lot of criticism of him when he was here, and then after the trade. Because he didn't, but we not like we've seen this happen with other players, because he was a big guy who wasn't super physical, right? Like, and this market kind of just turns on those players at some point. It's come for Brandon Carlo, it's come for Hampus Lindholm.
Great looking trade. Welcome to Boston, Fraser. What a trade, huh? Holy smokes.
But yeah, I mean, Dougie Hamilton's had a great career, but he has struggled recently, and like the offense has not been there this year. His minutes have been reduced. Like, yeah, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near that. And yeah, I don't think either him or Boston would want each other. I don't think there'd be much interest in that reunion.
Not a match. They're just not a match.
No, we are never, ever, ever getting back together.
Guys,
one interesting right shot defenseman name, and I think he's a little too old for me to like really be into it, but we've talked about the St. Louis Blues in the context of forwards, right? Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou, guys in their prime. But I mean, Colton Parayko, like his name has popped up a couple times. Mm-hmm. Again, what worries me is he's 32 and he's signed for 4 more years after this. $6.5 million, like $6.5 million for him is pretty affordable. I just don't know if like that. I don't really think it makes sense for the Bruins timeline, right? You're going to kind of get him on the downswing of his career, and Bruins probably need someone who's in their prime or on the upswing of their career. But I have seen that name pop up a couple times.
How many
too.
years does he have left on his current deal?
Four after this.
All right, so you get him through 36, and if you don't want to resign him, then that's fine. I like the player a lot. It would really come down to what are you giving them? I want to, I think Colton Parayko is worth like I don't think you should get Colton Parayko for like a second rounder and a prospect. Like I think he's worth a good haul if you're St. Louis, but I just don't think. Yeah, to what you said, Scott. I just don't think it's something you want to do right now if you're Boston, unless you're not giving up a high valued pick, but you have to give to get, right? So, guys, quickly before we close out here, I do want to spend at least a minute or two on Fraser Minten because he does tie the game in the third period, 3-3, 6 minutes to go. And I mentioned earlier that he is 71st in the NHL in hits right now, which is great, right? Like, love that from a young player. Well, with his goal and assist against the Canadiens, he now has 13 goals, 12 assists, 25 points on the year. I believe he's played every game too. He's on pace for about 39, 40 points, 39 and change, round up if you want. So just, again, we just talked about Carlo and that trade. I mean, you get Fraser Minten and a first round pick for Brandon Carlo. Like, I'm not trying to shit on Carlo, but like you guys, my rhetoric was pretty well known on him throughout his time here towards the end. I liked Carlo a lot until I didn't. And I know I was probably harsh on him and it wasn't personal, but like he just wasn't doing much of anything. And the return they got for him at the time, I was like, oh, okay, I don't know who this Fraser Minten kid is, but we'll see. Anything for Carlo right now with a first round pick is already winning. So Minten has been, I talked about being 71st in hits. Again, he's only 21 years old. He has a very mature two-way game.
He's plus 15.
What's that?
He's plus 15.
And listen, like I know, and Scott can go into detail on it. I know plus minus is a bit of a jaded stat these days, but hey, all right, jaded stat or not, better to be plus than yeah. Exactly.
Like, so we were like, oh, he's got a good 200-foot game, but like sometimes a young third line center placed in the wrong situation, it's definitely not going to be plus 15. So
no,
yeah.
So guys, give me your thoughts on him. Give me your thoughts on revisiting that trade less than 12 months later, and just who the Bruins could have in this kid, because he has had a very impressive rookie season. And again, back in the fall, the Bruins said, Fraser, we want you to go to the Prospects Challenge, get your feet wet before training camp. Yes, coach. Yes, sir. To Don, like, put his head down. A lot of players that had 25 games to their name, in their head may have rolled their eyes at that, but he just went and did his thing, and he's been a really solid player for the Bruins. So good for him.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the pitch on Minten when they got him was like, well, this is your Coyle replacement, right? Like, you traded away Coyle, but you got this kid who's going to become what Coyle's been. And I would say Minten is well on that track. He's already at the very worst, he is a good third line center. He could end up being one of the best third line centers in the NHL as he continues to grow. And as I've said before, like, I'm still not ruling out him having a higher offensive ceiling than that. Like, it's not crazy to think that maybe he develops into a top 2 center and plays in your top 6. He's still so young that, like, I don't know how or why you would rule that out. But even if he doesn't become that, like, we know how valuable third line center is. We know how crucial third lines are in any playoff run. And you have a kid who looks like, at the very worst, he's going to be able to anchor that part of your roster for many, many years to come. Like, it's I mean, I feel like we've said it all, but it's like, he's just such a smart player. His hockey IQ's through the roof. He has a great attitude, great work ethic. Marcus Zimmer said he looks like 10-year veteran, and he wasn't just talking about on the ice. He was talking about his training, his preparation, the way he handles himself off the ice, his nutrition, like all that stuff. It's just mature beyond his years. So yeah, and you brought up plus minus, and like, yeah, my only problem with plus minus is just like all the junk that gets thrown into it, the extra attacker goals and shorthanded goals and that stuff. But like 5-on-5 plus minus, I definitely find value in. And he's fourth on the Bruins. He's plus 10 at 5-on-5. Only Aspero, Arvidsson, and Zadorov are better than that.
And his point production at 5-on-5 is also, I think, top 5 or so in Boston. But you know something else that he has, and I know it's a small sample size, but he's got a bit of a clutch gene too. He's got a couple of overtime goals this year. He's not afraid of the big moment. The game against Montreal recently, that's a huge goal. That's a huge goal. Like, that's crunch time. That's 6 minutes to go in the game. And that's a 4-point swing of a game, as it turns out. And David Pastrnak said after the game, because he was asked about that final power play and just the confidence. And Scott, maybe it was you, so forgive me if it was, but somebody asked him about just how you feeling hopping over the boards, going up for that final power play, the confidence, knowing it. And he said, well, yeah, I mean, we're confident, but if we're more confident in that situation because Fraser tied the game 3-3, so we felt a little bit less pressure on ourselves there. Whereas if it's still 3-2, maybe you're trying to do a little bit too much to tie the game, and you're kind of playing with house money when it's 3-3. Yeah, you're still going to get that winning goal, but so your top players are being indirectly affected by you tying a game, which again, he didn't do alone. Good outlet pass from Hampus Lindholm to Feynman in there. But anyway, so he's checking a lot of boxes for a young player, and it's good for him and good for the team and everything. So yeah, I think that the 7th player award, it's I think he's got the inside track there. Here comes Minton around the corner. Anyway, all right.
Love a good backhand goal too.
Oh yeah.
Lost art. Not enough of them these days.
Absolutely. All right, road ahead. They're in New York. You know what I've been thinking about recently has been the travel. Like, not just the Bruins, but I mean, Toronto played at home yesterday again. I mean, there were some games in the NHL yesterday. Even just like watching the Patriots-Broncos game, I'm like, these people got to get home tonight. Like, how are they gonna travel around North America has been probably tough. So, getting to New York, I think they may have taken the train, possibly.
So they flew down Saturday night.
Okay.
Right. So originally they're supposed to practice in Boston on Sunday and then go down. They changed it to leave right after Saturday's game. Practiced at Madison Square Garden on Sunday. They'll have a morning skate Monday. And then it looks like everything should be clear for them to get back after Monday night's game. The other interesting note here is they host the Nashville Predators on Tuesday. Nashville's just been hunkered down in Boston, riding out the blizzard here because they moved up. So Nashville also got hit by this storm on its way over here. They moved up their game on Saturday by a couple hours to be able to get out after the game ahead of the storm. So they're off Saturday to Tuesday. So the Predators got in Saturday evening and have just been hunkered down in Boston. So they'll be waiting for the Bruins when they get back from New York.
Yeah, and Nashville and Philly, 2 of your next 3 games, 2 teams you have not seen yet this year. So, and both teams, Nashville's been competitive. Philly's obviously been competitive this year. So, when we talked earlier about you have some winnable games here, it's not to slight those teams. It's just if you have Dallas, Vegas, Montreal on your schedule, and then you got the Rangers and the Predators and the Flyers.
Well,
it just, on paper, it should be a more winnable game. But hey, you know what?
On the last one against New York.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I saw something funny because the Rangers' home record this year is putrid away from when they're at MSG. And I saw a funny comment when the Bruins beat them 10-2. Somebody said, because if you remember, the Bruins wore white uniforms that day, and the Rangers wore their blue homes. And somebody must have said, "Oh, the Rangers must have been confused. They thought they're at MSG because they're wearing their blue." But anyway, another whiteout game at the Garden, Bruins Canadiens. So it's nice. they're finding these pockets to kind of sprinkle in some different treats for the home fans. Obviously, they don't have a third jersey right now. Maybe that would be typically what they're doing, but they're finding these pockets where they have a road team on a one game road trip, and it just happens that it's been 2 original 6 teams with some of the best uniforms in hockey in New York and Montreal recently. Add that to the Bruins, and the Stadium Series jersey that Bridget made is the top jersey. Can you get those made? Can you go to mensleaguesweaters.com and get a few of those made?
Is that how you get the jerseys made? I haven't never looked into it, but yeah.
Yeah. Shut up, Men's League jerseys. Men's League sweaters, actually. They've a lot of people have been using them.
All right.
Yeah,
I like an action plan, Scott. So
good luck. That?
So now we have an action plan. So
great.
One step closer.
Thanks, Brian. Way to go.
Yeah, we should probably email them so we can actually maybe have a non-free advertisement on the pod. Skate Pod brought to you by Men's League Sweaters.
I'm just hoping that he gets one of those fedoras for when he goes down to Florida for the Stadium Series and wears that in the press box.
Listen, I'm not even being facetious right now. I would pay a lot of money for like an ISO cam on Scott. Scott, can you turn into like a vlogger? Like I want to see a day in the life of Scott on a road trip. I want to see you leaving Logan. I want to see you arriving in Florida. I want to see it all. I want to see it all.
Just got my dunks.
I was gonna say, like, how many hours of meeting popcorn are people gonna watch? Like that's all it is.
I would watch more than you think I would. I would watch more than you think. Anyway, do you guys have any final thoughts here?
No, I'm done.
Jordan Harris scored the overtime game-winning goal for the Providence Bruins, and Mark Divver tweeted it and said he looks like he's fully ready to go. So maybe he ends up back in Boston at some point soon here because apparently he's skating really well. Looks confident and might be ready to join the Bruins again if that's what they decide to do.
All right, we'll keep an eye on him, definitely. Elsewhere in Providence, the Friars just completely pantsing Scott's BU Terriers over the weekend. Sorry to bring that up as we let out here.
I think I'm done talking about BU hockey for a while.
They just swept.
Too many other good things going on for me to focus on that.
Well,
what's coming up?
Wait, no. Guys, on Nesson Friday, BCBU.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm doing ringside for that. So
where is that? At BU or BC?
At Aganis, yeah.
So are they doing a weekend matchup here?
Yeah, but the Friday game's on Nesson and the Saturday game.
I don't think they play Saturday. I think the weekend series is later in February. I think this is just a one-off.
Okay, well, all I know is Friday. That's where I'm going to be. So that'll be good. But Providence just swept BC too. They swept Maine, BC, and BU. Their 6 wins in a row without their starting goalie. So yeah, they're the best team in Hockey East right now. But we shall see what BCBU turns into. They're gonna get Boisvert back because he's done serving his suspension for the fight.
Fortunately, I'll be in the air at least for most of that game. That's my flight's like Friday evening, so I won't have to watch that and be disappointed.
Is it just because you don't want to see me?
That too.
Yeah.
Hey, what's Northeastern been doing for? Speaking of Jordan Harris, what's Northeastern been doing for their home games?
So they changed it. So they were planning on playing games at like Bentley and Walter Brown, which is the BU women's rink, and like a game at the Songa Center. But they've actually decided to go to like all road games, like true road games. So like if they were going to go play one team, they're just going to play Friday, Saturday away rather than, you know how they normally do. Like
they just don't have any home games essentially.
Yeah.
Which I guess it's the same. I don't think fans are traveling to Bentley to cheer them on anyway, and it's not their locker room, so it's kind of the same difference on it. But it might be easier just to stay where you are, which might be why they're doing it.
Yeah, so like it'll be like, 2 games at Vermont, or rather than trying to figure out somewhere else to go, like back and forth and stuff like that. So
that's going to be tough. I've said it before. That's tough to recruit future classes right now until that new rink is built. That's tough.
Apparently that's the plan for next year too.
Good luck getting commits.
But like at least there'll be a good atmosphere, right? If you're playing it like the Bentley rink and there's like no one goes, like it's still better if you're yeah, sure, you're playing 2 road games at Vermont, but
Yeah, I guess.
whatever.
Yeah.
And also, I believe that it has a benefit for their NPI, which is how you
Yeah.
make the postseason, because road wins count as more than
Okay.
home wins. So I think that if they it could potentially benefit them in terms of making the tournament, but obviously you have to win on the
Yeah, I think
so
that's like as big a factor as anything is like I think there are people over there that were like all these games feel like road games anyways, but we're not going to get the credit for them being road games. So like we might as well just make them road games and get, as Bridget said, like that basically like extra credit for winning
Yeah.
on the road potentially.
Well, and if they could find like a replacement home rink full time while the new what's the new rink gonna be called? Matthews the second
I don't actually know.
is built. You know, it's it would be one thing, right? Like, okay, we're gonna be at Warrior for the whole like you at least you can get used to it. But if they're gonna be nomadic and just bouncing around anyway, well, that's no way to live. That's I get it, but I'm just saying recruiting wise, that's yeah, I wouldn't expect any beanpot wins for Northeastern the next couple of years, but maybe they'll surprise. But anyway, all right. Thank you all very much for listening. If you've been shoveling snow for the last 24 hours, please get some rest, recovery, ice your backs if you need to, and put your feet up. Enjoy Bruins Rangers, Bruins Predators, and we'll be back here on Wednesday morning to talk to you all. Take care. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment.